I am big picture thinking, and I get so exhausted by the details, and I drop a lot of balls. So my email inbox will show you that, right?
Yeah.
And getting to know this about myself has unleashed me to understand, oh, okay, I don't have to feel bad that I literally cannot think through 17 edge cases and writing a user story when I'm managing product, right? I can recognize that's not a failure of who I am. That's actually just like my brain does not compute. And so I need to go to this super detail-oriented person and run my things by them and say, what do you think about this, right? And I also need to recognize that when I'm pitching a new concept and somebody asks me a bunch of detail-oriented questions, one, I'm gonna get tired, and two, I need that person, and three, they're not just poking holes in my ideas because they think I'm terrible. They just literally don't have enough information to understand, right? And so I think it's such a helpful one to understand. From the inverse perspective, detail-oriented people can tend to, like try to present the whole entire piece of information in a way that loses other people. And so they need to understand, like, when you're starting to lose people, like this might be why it's happening, right? Detail-oriented people can also understand, like, oh my gosh, I have a superpower. Like, things can't get done without the details really actually ending up making sense. And so when there are these big picture thinkers, one, they're not incompetent. Two, they need me. Oh my gosh, I have such a superpower, right?
That's right.
So there's such a good, like there's so much power that can come from understanding this difference. And there's also so much conflict that can come from not understanding it because, like I said, like someone can pitch a big picture idea and they think that somebody is attacking who they are as a person, or like, oh my gosh, that person is always trying to prove that I'm incapable, or that person is always out to get me. No, that person really doesn't understand what you're saying yet, and they're going to help you make it a better idea. Or, the detail-oriented person thinking, like, why aren't people listening to me? Why are they cutting me off? Well, it could be because you're covering a little too much that's not necessary yet. Or, why are people always incompetent? No, they're not. They're just not seeing what you're seeing, and they need you to bring it in a way that they can receive.
That's right. And the big challenge when you're one way, detail-oriented or big picture, and you're working with somebody that's the opposite, is that it's really hard to bring that up. Like, I would say I am probably a little bit more detail-oriented than I am big picture.
I would agree. Mr. Dyadic and, like, all your big words.
I'm specific on my definitions. I mean, it's like the academic training, right? Like, everything needs to be defined. I need to know the dimensions. I need to know I needed to know all that structure. Because if we don't know what we're talking about, okay, you've convinced me. Yes, I'm detail-oriented.
Yes, you are.
I'm having an epiphany in the moment.
It's a therapy session for Scott.
Thank you. I needed it. And that's helpful for me because, like, I feel like you can't have a conversation and make forward progress unless we're all agreeing what we're talking about.
It's true.
And so I think the challenge for me is that when I am engaging with people maybe that are more big picture, I don't want to sound stupid by basically being like, I'm not following all the big stuff you're talking about right now. It is over my head and abstract, and I can't make heads or tails of it, A. And B, I don't want to slow them down sometimes, where it's like, man, this person seems to really be on a roll and knows what they're talking about here. I'm just going to take feverish notes of all my questions. And then maybe at the end I can be like, okay, can you clarify X? Can you clarify Y? And that will help. And it never does. And I think on the other end, it also is hard, right? If you're the big picture person and someone's detail-oriented, it's the initial reaction is, please fast forward. I don't have time for this, or this is annoying. Like, I just don't like it. And there's no good way to bring it up because they might they might get defensive, or that might just be the way they need to process the information to actually get it out. So this one to me is really hits home in that I do see a lot of mental angst, and it's not verbalized.
Yep.
And there's no like language for
Yep.
it to help people really figure out like what's the right way to approach this.
Yep. And I think there's, just like with all of these differences, we fall on one side of it and we can feel like, oh, I should be more like the other side, right? Yeah. I have felt like, oh, I should be more detail oriented. And I know people who are more detail oriented who think, why can't I just like see the big picture yet, right? And it's like, it's fine that you can't see the big picture yet. Your brain literally has to understand the details to understand the conclusion, right? And that's fine. That's important. That's important. Everybody needs that skill set.
Yeah.
Or that amount of information. I really see this play out with data. You know, I'll be like, hey, just want to understand, like, this type of user does this type of action. And they're like, well, we have that data in this way or in that way, and are you particularly asking about? And I'm like, you know,
I don't know.
I don't know, and I could use a nap right now.
Right. Just tell me an answer that you think makes the most sense based upon what I know.
Which can lead to, in an unaware situation, it can lead to people thinking like, dang, Kirsten just doesn't take this serious. Like, she is not trying hard enough. She is just swoop and poop. Like, she's just bringing it in. She's like, figure it out. So you know? And it could also lead to, on the other hand, like, my gosh, why can't you just think for yourself? Like, why just critically think through, you understand what I need, like, just figure it out, right? And it's like, no, neither of those are true.
That's right.
And so I know that, one, there are just a bajillion nuances to data, and that I'm so grateful we have extremely detail-oriented thinkers working on that.
Right.
And so when I'm going to come with a request, I better really think through how to best articulate it.
It challenges you to think through it differently.
And I have to challenge my spirit to pause and not spend 5 seconds, but maybe 5 whole minutes on that Slack message, right? And that's okay. Like, that's going to be the most productive, helpful thing.
Right. Meeting in the middle to some degree, and making sure that you can retain that big picture thinking, but with a little bit closer to the language that they'll appreciate or some of the details that they need in order to get it done.